everyone today to our HR Insight. We're going to be talking about a hot topic today, recruitment and retention, something that seems to be hitting a lot of organizations quite hard right now, and hopefully you will be able to glean a few best practices that you can implement to assist you in improving your efforts in these areas. I'm Lori Dahlberg. I am the HR Consulting Manager for Eide Bailly. I've been with the firm for about 18 and a half years. I've been in human resources for over 30 years now, and just within the last 4 or so years moved over into the consulting space where I am now helping clients. So I thoroughly enjoy doing webinars where we get to kind of educate folks on HR practices to help that aspect of their business, and would be happy to answer any questions that you might have after the webinar if you want to reach out and contact me. All right, so what are we looking at today? And I'd like to start off our webinar today by letting you know we are going to go through a tremendous amount of information today, and I'm going to do it relatively quickly. We will be sharing these slides with you so that you have the content and a little bit more of the detail to go back and look through later. But to kick things off, I do always like to talk about why are we discussing recruitment and retention. To start off with, unemployment right now is currently at 5.8%, which is relatively low. And we have a lot of individuals out there in that unemployed status who feel like they're making more money by collecting unemployment than they would by working. And that does make it a little more difficult for us to fill positions. And so if you are feeling short-staffed and as though you can't find folks, that is kind of one of the reasons why. There are also a number of job postings that are out there. They are in the millions. And so really good candidates have a lot of different options. And the length of time to fill an open position is anywhere from 5 to 50 days. 43% of positions are filled within 30 days. So there is some time that is spent on trying to find people to fill your open positions. And that oftentimes can cause some additional business stress as well. It's important to keep in mind that the cost of turnover averages about $15,000 per person for an employee who earns $45,000 a year, and it can be as high as 1.5 times annual base compensation for those highly compensated business professionals or other professionals that are out there. So the cost of turnover, low unemployment, all of these things are kind of creating what we call a war for talent. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today, is the fact that there is an increasingly competitive landscape for recruitment and retention of talented individuals. And the thing that you can do is to operate with a mindset that emphasizes the importance of talent to the success of your organization, as opposed to thinking of it as an afterthought. So what it means is that as an organization, you really do need to think of recruitment and retention as core strategic initiatives. It's not just something that you say is a core strategic initiative, it's something that you put action plans together for. And also put solid practices in place to retain those employees that you fight so hard to find. They're difficult to find. It takes a lot of effort to find them. Once you have them on board, you really need to make sure that you're putting in place retention strategies that are going to keep them there. And these are the things that we're going to talk about today. But before we get started, I do want to ask a polling question. That question is, are staffing concerns keeping you up at night? And the responses are yes, we're struggling to find people to fill our open positions. Yes, we're struggling to find them and then retain them. Or no, we've got it covered. Okay, so it looks like 21% of you actually feel that you have good recruitment efforts and retention efforts in place. That's fantastic. Hopefully you're joining today's session to maybe learn some new best practices that you can implement. But the rest of you, you're not alone. The majority of folks out there are struggling with recruitment and staffing, and it is something that keeps them up at night, which is why we kind of go back to that first thing that I said. You have to make strategic initiatives for your organization in the areas of recruitment and retention. So recruitment and retention, they kind of go together. And we're going to be talking about each one of them individually. But it is important to note that it's not just getting people, it's keeping them. And you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward for both. So in the areas of recruitment, what it means is that you need to think of recruitment of talent as an important responsibility, something that requires some focus, processes, tools, marketing, in order to really attract and get talented individuals to join your organization, rather than just an afterthought or something that needs to be done. Oh yeah, we know we need to recruit somebody, so yeah, when the time comes, we'll deal with it then. Recruitment really needs to be something that you set up a process and a strategy for. You want to make sure that as you're establishing those processes, that it includes the steps that are necessary to make sure you're finding the best person to do the job and not just a warm body to sit in a seat. You want to make sure that you're focusing on finding, recruiting, and selecting that talent. And you want to make sure that you're utilizing the right people within your organization in that recruitment or the interview process. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. If there is one thing that you take away from today's session that might be new, it's going to be this one tip that we'll talk about a little bit later. So how do you start? How do you start by figuring out what your process should include? Well, the very first thing that any process with regards to recruitment should include is identifying the need. If you don't know what you're looking for, you are never going to find it. And in order to identify what the need is for your team, you need to picture your perfect candidate. And sometimes it just is as simple as sitting there at your desk, typing up or taking some notes on what would this person do. When you look at your current team, and you have somebody who maybe just left or you're adding a new role to the team, what is it that they're going to do? And if they are going to be successful at doing what you want them to do, what kind of experience would they have? What kind of person would they be? Are they going to be somebody who is really, really outgoing and a huge team player, somebody who can pull other members of the team together? Or do you want somebody to just sit at their desk and do the work? You need a workhorse, not a social butterfly. You have to figure out what kind of person you want on your team. You also need to look at what is missing from your current team. And this is one of the steps that often gets missed. A lot of times, if somebody leaves a position, the focus is on recruiting somebody to replace that person who just left, as opposed to looking at the skill set of your current team, figuring out if there are people on the team who might be able to take on some of the responsibilities of the person who just left, and see those additional responsibilities as maybe a way to develop their skill sets more, to advance in their own career, and use that almost as a retention tool where you're helping people take on new responsibilities and grow that way. And then once you've figured out what skill sets you have on your team, you can determine what are you lacking? What kinds of skills are you missing? You know, Bob may have done a great job as your AP clerk, and Bob leaves, and you're thinking, okay, I just need to find an AP clerk with Bob's skill set. Well, maybe Bob didn't have the education or the background that you originally were looking for. He learned how to do the job and he did a great job, but there were some things that were just outside of his area of expertise. When you're hiring somebody to replace Bob, why not hire somebody to actually do what it is that you would envision as being the ideal individual for that position? And when you go through this exercise of picturing the perfect candidate, the person who is going to round out your team, make your team the best they can possibly be, what you've done is you have actually created what we call the purple unicorn. It doesn't exist, but it at least gives you a framework for what it is that you're looking for. And you, by going through the exercise, you are identifying what are the skills we have to have in the individual that we're hiring, and what are the skills that would be a really, really nice to have. So there are core skills that they have to have these skills or they're not going to be successful in the job. And then skills that if they had them, it would make them exceptional and make your team even better than it is today. Once you've identified your need, then you're going to create a job posting. Do not use a job description as a job posting. That is very boring, and today's candidate wants to see something a little bit more exciting. And so what you'll do in your job posting is provide some really good information about the company, the perks, the reasons why people would want to work for your organization. And you're going to do the same thing with regards to the job. You'll share some of the cool things that they might be doing in this job, what kinds of traits that you're looking for, education, experience, but you do it in a more fun way, a more marketing type way, so that it looks like your organization and that job are far more appealing than the same type of a position at another organization. So there should be a concerted effort on making your job postings far more interesting than the standard job postings that we see today. If you are fortunate enough to have creative individuals within your organization, folks in marketing or things of that nature, this would be something you could partner with those folks on to help create job postings that really appeal to the masses. After you have created that job posting that outlines what it is you're looking for, it's a great idea and actually a phenomenal retention tactic to look within your own organization and within your own network to see if that talent exists within the group of people that you know. So this step of looking at talent within your network is what I call low-hanging fruit. The first place to go is internally. Look at other people on your team, see if there's anybody who would be interested in the position. Look at other people within your organization. There may be somebody who was an AP clerk a little while ago. There wasn't an AP clerk position available with your company when they applied, so they applied for a totally different position. And now this position becomes available. It would be easy to move them into that role. So look internally, and we call that upskilling talent. It's when you take someone internally and put them into a position, allowing them to utilize skill sets or to develop skill sets and expand on their career within your organization. That is what employees are looking for. They are looking for long-term career opportunities. And if they don't see opportunities within your organization, they're going to go elsewhere. So again, looking at that internal talent is a great retention tactic. Another thing you can do is employee referrals. Who do your employees know within the industry, or who do they know from previous positions or other areas of their life who might be a good fit? And give your employees a referral bonus. If the person that they refer is hired, give them a bonus. Make that bonus worth their time. Do something at least $500 for an employee referral. Usually goes a very, very long way to get people to refer really, really good people. If it is for positions where you tend to have a lot of them within your organization, if you're a manufacturing company and you have production operators or folks who work on the manufacturing floor and you're hiring hundreds of those types of individuals a year, then maybe you make it a $100 employee referral. But make it significant enough that the employee is willing to put their name on the line to refer somebody who gets hired. The other thing is to look at your network contacts. Who do you know in the industry and who do those people know? If you know of the perfect AP clerk, reach out to that person and say, hey, we've got a position available. Do you know of anyone in the industry who might be interested, or are you interested in the opportunity? And reach out to those folks. Reaching out to people you know is the fastest way to get good talent, and it usually requires little effort. If you're unable to find somebody within your networks or internally, then you're going to need to spread the word. And this is where having that creative job posting will come in handy. You want to get the position out there. You're definitely going to put it on your website so that interested candidates can not only come back to your website, see the position, but also find out more about your organization. You're going to want to utilize college job boards. So if you have colleges or universities within your geographic location, post the position there, either for college students or for alumni. You'll want to utilize Indeed.com. Indeed often scrapes websites and pulls job postings without you even knowing it. but you can pay a fee to ensure that your job posting appears at the top of someone's search for a position that is similar. And then utilize any industry association sites. If you are in the healthcare industry and you are a member of HFMA, they allow members to post positions on the HFMA website. So utilize that resource. It literally targets your specific demographic market that you're looking for, the type of expertise you're looking for your industry. So use those resources. You also want to make sure that you are utilizing social media, because 79% of candidates go out to companies' social media sites looking for jobs. So you either can put it on your Facebook page. If you have somebody internally who can use Twitter to tweet out positions, that is also a great way to get it out there. But you want to make sure that you are utilizing social media in the right manner. And you can take that posting, and a link from the posting on your website, and share it on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And if necessary, if you really are searching for positions and you're struggling, then hire a staffing agency. But if you do that, you want to make sure that you partner with the right agency, that you provide them with lots of information about your organization, your recruitment process, and how you want them to pre-screen candidates, so that they are doing a lot of the administrative work of finding folks, and they're getting you qualified individuals who actually are a strong fit. When you have the position posted, you've reached out to your network, you've looked internally, it's out there on the social media sites, on the various job boards, candidates are going to start coming in. That's the goal. The minute a candidate expresses interest in your position, that's when the clock starts ticking. And that is when you have to make recruitment a priority, because a lot of your competitors are. Organizations that make recruitment a priority are responsive. They do things in a timely manner. They don't say, oh, I'm going to post the position on Monday. I'll review resumes on Friday, and next Monday we might start scheduling interviews. The good candidates are going to be gone. Organizations that put a focus on recruitment will review resumes on a daily basis and reach out to candidates who are strong contenders for the position immediately. Because if you're finding somebody to be a good fit for your position, I can guarantee your competitors are thinking the same thing. And you have to remember that time kills all deals, especially when it comes to recruitment. Taking too long in your process, you will lose really good talent. So once those resumes come in, what happens next is the different phases of your process. The first is resume review. Make sure that you have someone designated to review resumes, as I said, on a daily basis. They're looking at the resumes, they are weeding out those that are not qualified, and they are notifying those candidates either by email or some other form of communication. Thanks so much for applying for our position. At this time, we've decided not to pursue you. We wish you the best in your career pursuits. At least let them know you've received the resume, that you've reviewed it, and that you're not interested in pursuing them. If you are interested in talking with them, I encourage you to do a pre-screen interview. And that pre-screen can be a phone screen, or it could just be a discussion over coffee or lunch. But anytime you are talking with a candidate about a position, it is considered to be part of the interview process. So it's not casual. You want to make sure that you have questions that you're going to ask, even if you're doing it over coffee or over lunch. It has to be a step in the process where you are asking questions to find out if they are qualified enough to come into the office for the formal interview. And you should be scheduling those types of meetings relatively quickly after you review the resume. So the best thing I can tell you is to review the resume. If you see that you find someone you're interested in, reach out to them immediately and set up a time to talk with them further, because at least you're responding to them quickly. It may be a couple of days before they're available, but you have to make time to have those conversations. And you need to be prepared that some of those conversations will have to happen either before normal business hours or after normal business hours or over a lunch hour, because sometimes the best candidates that you might be talking with are currently employed and they need to be able to still go to their job. So you need to work around that with regards to talking with them. Once you've done that pre-screen and determine, yes, they have the core essential function, core skills that we're looking for, you know, they've got the core ones, I want to find out more. That is when you're going to schedule the in-office interview. And my next polling question is going to ask, who do you include as part of your interview team? Is it executives only? Is it supervisors and managers only? Is it executives and supervisors and managers? Or do you include executives, supervisors, or managers, and the peers of the individual who might be coming into the position? Okay, great. All right, I am very pleased to see that there is at least 25% of the organizations out there that are utilizing executives, supervisors, and managers, and peers. And we're going to talk about this. This is the one area that if you take nothing else from this session, this is the one that I want you to take from the session. You really should, as part of your recruitment and interviewing process, identify key individuals within your organization that you're going to include in the interview. And at a minimum, these are the folks that you should include in every in-office interview that you host or Zoom interview that you host with a candidate for a position. You definitely need to include somebody at that peer level. The peer level individuals can talk with the candidate about what they're going to see on a day-to-day basis. And it allows the candidate the opportunity to connect with somebody that they're going to work with side by side every day. You don't have to give the peer level individuals really technical questions to ask of the candidate. It really could be something more about culture fit or teamwork, or even just providing the candidate with information about the different types of activities that you do within the department. But it is super important to allow the candidate to connect with individuals who are going to be their peers. The next level that you must include in an interview, if you're going to follow best practices, would be their supervisor or manager. So this is going to be somebody that the candidate will receive work direction from. And candidates want to know who their boss is going to be. They want to know, do I click with that person? They want to ask questions about performance management and evaluations and career development. So that level is really important to include in the interview as well, and allow the candidate the opportunity to connect with them. And you want to include those senior manager or executive level individuals within the organization so that the candidate can interact with the person who is in charge, right? They want to see where the strategic direction for the organization is coming from. This could be the head of the department. It could be the head of the organization, depending upon how large your organization is. But it is super important to include that senior level individual in the interview because they're the ones who have the vision for the organization. They can share that vision with the candidate, and they can also see if the candidate would be a good fit and a good match for the opportunity. The more people at these levels that you include in the interview, the more connection the candidate is going to make. And it's easier for a candidate to make a decision to join your organization if they have made connections with individuals at the different levels. They can actually picture themselves working for you because they've talked with individuals at the various levels. Before the in-office interview starts, you will want to make sure that you prepare for it. And a couple of things that you'll do is you will identify standard interview questions that you're going to ask of every single candidate. So these are going to be the questions that help you determine, do they have the technical skills for the position? Have they done many of the tasks that you're requiring for your position? Have they done that in the past? Do they have the education, and how have they utilized their education? What is their career path? Like, what are they hoping for out of their career with you? Standard interview questions you will ask of every single candidate. Now, you will also identify additional questions that you might want to ask them based on their resume or based on the pre-screen notes that you have from the conversation you had. There may be something in there about they traveled abroad either during school or after school, after college, and they worked abroad, and you can, that's just something interesting to connect with someone on, that you can say, what did you learn by traveling abroad that you think you can bring back to the workplace? That might be unique to only one candidate that you interview. So you still can ask individual questions based on what you see on their resume, but you want to make sure that every candidate is asked the same set of questions so that you can compare apples to apples. When you are identifying those standard interview questions, you also want to make sure that you let every person on the interview team know what information they should share with the candidate. So you might want to assign the peer level individuals to talk about, as I mentioned earlier, fun things that the organization might do. So social activities that your company holds, whether it's a holiday party or a summertime picnic, or you go to a baseball game every year. You might want to talk about the different types, have somebody talk about the different types of meetings that you have, so that they understand how often they might be getting information passed down to them regarding strategic initiatives or what's going on in the company. You may want to assign somebody performance management so that they can explain to the candidate how often performance evaluations are done. You might want to have somebody talk about the benefits that the company offers. You might want to have the senior level executive talk about the strategic initiatives. Assign the information that's going to be shared to each interviewer so that they're not all sharing the exact same thing. You want the candidate to leave the interview fully understanding what your organization stands for and what they can expect. And you don't want them leaving with only knowing one component of it. So identify those standard interview questions so you can get the information you need, and identify the information that each interviewer will share so that the candidate gets the information that they need. It's also important to understand the purpose of an interview. It's not just, we want to talk to this person so we can hire them. There's a little bit more about the interview, right? So you need to remember why you're there. The most important thing is that you're going to be sharing information about the organization and position. You can then gather information from the candidate regarding their skills, abilities, knowledge, and experience. That will allow you to determine if they are a good fit for the position. But overall, you need to keep in mind you have to create a positive experience from your recruitment process, because that is what is going to linger with the candidate. I can tell you that I have interviewed at different places prior to coming to Eide Bailly, and there was one place that I went to, and the interview process was so horrid that I walked out of the room and thought to myself, I don't care how much they offer me, I would never go work there. And it gave me a bad taste in my mouth about that company, and I would never utilize their services because of it. You have to keep in mind that when you are in an interview process, you are representing your organization, and you want to make sure it's a positive experience. Even if you're going to choose not to pursue the person, they should have a great experience interviewing with you. All right, once you get through that interview, you need to make your decision. And again, time kills all deals with these. So once you have completed the interview, you want to get together with the individuals who were involved in the interview to discuss how you want to move forward. Does everybody feel the same way? Do they all want to move forward with an offer? If so, great. Make your decision and move forward. If you get together and you've decided you don't want to pursue the candidate, that's fine as well. Just make sure that you let the candidate know. You always want to make sure that you follow up with them. When it comes to the offer, you want to make sure that as you're putting that offer together, that you are factoring in that you've completed the application, you've conducted references, and you've done your background check. There are state regulations regarding when you can do a background check, so you'll want to make sure that you comply with your state's regulations. Some states allow you to do it prior to an offer, and other states tell you that you cannot do it until an offer has been extended. So just keep those things in mind. But when you are, I'm so sorry, you're going to want to make sure that you have your offer details worked out before you call the candidate. You're going to want to make sure you come up with the position title because they're going to want to know. You're going to want to make sure you work out any compensation details, so how much you're going to pay them, including a signing bonus or any other type of offer-related bonus. It could also be relocation that you might be offering. So figure those details out before you call the candidate to extend the offer. You're going to want to have some sort of potential start date in mind so that you can at least utilize that as a starting point for conversation regarding when they might start. And then you're going to want to make sure you have an offer deadline, a time within which the candidate needs to decide if they're going to join you. And you should allow the candidate some time to consider the offer, but don't give them so much time that you might lose other candidates that you have in the loop. You'll want to verbally extend the offer and be excited when you extend the offer. If you found someone great, call them up, let them know we really enjoyed speaking with you. We think you'll be a great fit for our organization, and we'd like to extend the offer to you. And then provide them with those the details of the offer verbally, and then follow up with a written offer letter. If you have a candidate who is requiring relocation, some things that you can do if they're coming in from out of state is set up a realtor tour for the candidate and for their significant other at the time that you're doing the in-office interview. And the best thing to do is just to find a local realtor that you can set up a relationship with. You contact them, you contact the candidate, ask them if they want to go on a realtor tour. And if they say yes, you put the candidate and the realtor in touch with each other and allow them to determine what kind of tour they want to go on. They may want to see schools, they may want to look at churches, they may want to look at certain types of neighborhoods. None of that has anything to do with their job or their ability to perform the job. So it should be kept separate with regards to how you handle those types of conversations. You'll also want to make sure that you schedule a meet and greet dinner with the candidate and their significant other and individuals from the interview team the night before the interview. The reason for that is oftentimes significant others do have a large say in the decision-making process with regards to whether or not they relocate. So including them as part of the conversation, including them in the trip to for the candidate to meet with you is a great way to kind of help, again, develop those connections. And then have a basket of local goodies delivered to their hotel room prior to their arrival with a personalized note, letting them know that you're excited to meet them. We've done this in a number of different locations. It's just sitting there at their table at the hotel in their room. It's got some Eid Bailey goodies as well as some local treats, whether it's chocolates or sodas or different types of things like that. It's just something nice that welcomes them to the hotel. And then include a relocation package as part of your offer if you are relocating individuals. Now, some things to keep in mind are employment laws. And you want to make sure that you pay attention to these in your process to ensure that you are not discriminating against individuals, and also to encourage diversity within your efforts. So the first one is you have to pay attention to the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, and that prevents discrimination based on race, color, national origin, gender, and religion. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, which prevents discrimination based on pregnancy, childbirth, or medical conditions related to pregnancy or childbirth. You want to make sure that you pay attention to the Equal Pay Act and not base pay on gender. The Age Discrimination and Employment Act protects individuals over the age of 40, so make sure that your efforts don't discriminate against individuals in that area. We also have the Americans with Disabilities Act, where you can't discriminate against individuals with disabilities, and you need to provide reasonable accommodation if they have made that request. And then the Genetic Information and Non-Discrimination Act, which prevents you from discriminating against individuals based on genetic information on the individual or their family members. And retaliation of an individual based on their filing of any type of claim in those areas is also prohibited. basically, when I look at employment law and I look at this list, it's in quick terms, it is saying don't discriminate against individuals in your recruitment process. Don't focus on race, color, national origin, gender, religion, pregnancy, age, disability. And when you think about those things, any of those characteristics or those qualities have nothing to do with an individual's ability to perform the job. Any questions that you might ask should have everything to do with someone's ability to perform the job. And so make sure that you're asking questions related to that. And if you have questions regarding that, feel free to reach out to me. I have another webinar that I do that is much more detailed with regards to developing interview questions, posting jobs so that you get a diverse applicant pool, those types of things. But we had to kind of get through the recruitment portion relatively quickly so that we could get into the retention area. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about retention. And with retention, the first one is to make recruitment a priority. In order to retain good people, you need to hire good people. And so you want to make sure that you have a recruitment process that hires good people. Other retention tactics that we're going to discuss today are going to touch on onboarding and the orientation process, compensation, empowering managers, providing training and coaching and mentoring, allowing flexibility, providing wellness benefits, and creating a work environment that employees want to be part of. And sure looks easy on a slide with bullet points, a little more difficult to put into practice, but not so difficult that organizations shouldn't try. So we're going to start with onboarding and orientation. Once you've found that great individual, you want to make sure that their entry into your organization is successful, that it is planned and prepared for. You want to put forth the effort to ensure that they feel welcome and that you are ready for them on the day that they start. So my first question is, how much time do you allow for new hire orientation? Number one would be, we don't allow any time. We need them to start working. So they just show up and we put them to work. Number two is 1 hour to complete paperwork, 2 to 4 hours to go through benefits and paperwork, 1 full day, which does benefits, paperwork, and system training. Or are you an organization that has more than 1 full day for orientation and onboarding?
All right. Well, they are answering that. We do have a question here, and maybe this should be towards the end, but it says, can you expand on what made your bad interview a bad experience?
Oh, that's a great question. All right, so I was interviewing at a hospital for an HR position. And when I arrived, they were like, oh, yeah, we heard that you were coming. And a person came out and got me and took me down a hallway. They opened up a door to a room that had these little desks with little chairs, and they were all just crammed in there. And while I was standing there, she moved like about 7 of them around and told me to sit in one. And the rest of the room was like just cram packed with these little desks and little chairs. And 10 people came in. There were 6 doctors, 3 nurses, and an admin assistant. They came in and they sat at the various chairs. They were completely unorganized. They reviewed my resume while I was sitting there, and started firing questions. And they were asking questions about, how do you deal with people who are difficult? What would you do if somebody told you they didn't want to interview the way that you wanted them to? How have you handled people who have more education than you? It was just all very, very negative and very telling of the type of environment that I might be working in. It was very disorganized. They were talking over each other, and it did not feel good. I mean, I felt like I answered the questions just fine. But when I left there, I did not have a good feeling about it. I could tell that there was a lot of conflict in the workplace just based on how they interacted with one another. And I realized that as an HR person, I was probably going to have to deal with that, and just felt that that for the, I think it was $12 an hour job, because this was way back in the 80s, I think, that it just wasn't going to be something that I was interested in doing. So it definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. And then whenever I had to get healthcare services, I went to the other hospital in town. Never been asked that question. All right, our poll, how did we do? Okay, so it does look like a majority of you have a good orientation program, and I am really glad to hear that. It is so important that if you don't have orientation, even if it's just an hour or a 2-hour session where you sit down, you explain benefits, you have them complete paperwork, there is legally required paperwork. You have to have them fill out a Form I-9. If you don't have them fill out a Form I-9 within 72 hours, you're supposed to not continue their employment. If you offer benefits, employees want to know what those benefits are so that they can fill out the enrollment paperwork and get their benefits in time. Going on a tour of the facility or the office is important. Introducing them to people is important. There's just simple things that you really should be doing as part of orientation to make anyone feel like they're welcome. And when you don't, it kind of sets the tone for them for how their career is going to be with you, or how things are going to go when they're working. So with onboarding, you should allow time to set up the basics. So you want to make sure that if they're going to have an email address or a phone number, that you get that stuff set up, that you assign their workspace, that you have their equipment ready for them, and that they have their login and they've got the software loaded on the computer. If you have parking passes, you want to make sure you have that, or building access cards or business cards. You want to add them to distribution lists, put together a training agenda. And one thing that's actually really, really nice that I've seen companies do is every new hire gets a company logo item, whether it's a hat or a shirt or a jacket or something that is mailed to their home ahead of time. And it kind of is just a nice way of saying, hey, we're excited to have you come. We know you're coming and we're ready for you. And you want to make sure that you communicate with new hires regularly until they start. So if somebody has to give a 2-week notice and you're going to have them start 2 weeks, make sure that you're communicating those first day expectations. Or even if they're going to start the next day, here's the first day expectations. We need for you to bring your documentation to prove that you're legally authorized to work in the United States. Here's where you're going to park. Here's what our dress code is, so that when they arrive, they have the items needed for orientation, and you can get through it quickly. A typical orientation agenda includes these types of things. So a review of benefits, a review of your policies and your handbook, tour and introductions, maybe lunch with the team or dinner if they're working night shift, paperwork, making sure that they're completing their Form I-9. If you have a confidentiality, a non-disclosure, a non-compete, W-4 direct deposit, all those kinds of things, you'll want to make sure that you fill that out. Allow them time to set up their workstations. So if they have a cubicle or an office, give them some time to get that set up. Somebody who talks with them about expectations of them in their position. You can identify a go-to person, a buddy, or whatever you want to call it, that they can go to with questions. And then you're going to give them position-specific training, as well as any company training that might be required for your particular industry or organization. So that's just a standard orientation. This could take 2 hours, or it could take 4 weeks, or it could take 5 months, just depending upon how you structure things in your organization. If you have a robust training program, you may have curriculum assigned where this is what they learn on day 1, here's day 2, at week 3, here's what we give them, at week 6, this is what we do. So just set your orientation agenda based on your organizational needs, but there are some basics that you should cover. And please be aware that orientation is considered information overload day. So be available to ask questions when they have them. You may teach them how to handle an expense report. They may not have an expense report for months. So just know that when they do have an expense report, they're going to have some questions, and be available. The next retention tactic that you can utilize is to pay a fair wage. And when addressing pay with regards to retention, it's important to acknowledge that this is what is at the heart of an employee's basic needs. And if you hire new college grads, you have to understand that today's new college grad is typically earning around $50,000 a year on average. And to them, having steady and reliable income is important, because most of them have incurred around $37,000 in student debt. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal that talked about a lot of folks who had gone to Ivy League schools to get movie producing degrees or some sort of degree in the movie industry, and that they have racked up about $330,000 worth of debt, and the majority of them had jobs that were paying around $30,000 a year. There was no way they were ever going to pay that debt off, and the whole article just kind of talked about their plight and what today's college student is experiencing with regards to that debt. So pay is definitely a huge aspect of what candidates are looking for. So you want to make sure that you're paying a fair wage. You also want to make sure that you're following pay equity laws to pay individuals fairly and not base your pay on gender. And also review compensation regularly to make sure that you are paying fairly for your industry, market, and position. There are salary surveys out there that you can utilize, many of them through industry associations. A huge part of what I do is compensation analysis and salary surveys based on positions, industry, and geographic location. So if you keep hearing from your employees that they're not being paid fairly and you're wondering, definitely reach out and somehow get salary data so that you can either talk with employees about it or you can make adjustments if needed. You also might want to consider utilizing a total rewards sheet. I don't know how many folks have done this in the past, but total reward sheets often outline basic pay information. So with a total reward sheet, what you're doing is you are showing the employee what you pay them in the form of any type of compensation, benefits, perks, those types of things, so that an employee understands that while they may make $50,000 a year, your investment in them is actually $75,000 when you factor everything in. So a basic total reward sheet would outline base pay, bonus pay. It would showcase the employer contribution and the employee contribution for any medical, dental, or vision insurance. If you pay for short-term and long-term disability coverage, you would include that. You would include any life insurance, contributions for retirement from the company or from the employee. If you pay for parking or public transportation, or if there are any other perks that you have, a technology allowance or any kind of wellness benefit, make sure that you're including those things so that the employee understands how much you are paying towards their overall package as opposed to just their compensation. I always like to put a section down at the bottom about the payout of vacation, sick leave, or PTO and their holidays so that they can see if they accrue 3 weeks of PTO, they can see what that dollar figure is. So you take their annual earnings divided by 2,080 hours, multiplied by the number of PTO hours that they accrue, and it lets them know how much of their $50,000 a year is actually vacation time. And I like to do the same thing with holiday pay. It really is a good way of kind of talking with employees about everything that you're doing for them in the form of dollars. The next retention tactic is empowering managers. And with this, I have a poll question. Who do you tend to promote into management level positions? Is it the individual who's been in the group the longest, the individual who performs the best in the group, the individual who has demonstrated leadership skills, or do you hire managers from outside of the organization? Great. I am very pleased to see that the majority of folks base it on who demonstrates the leadership skills, because that is a true sign of where it should be. All right. So I'm just going to go through this. So typically what we see is that organizations somebody will be doing so great in a job and they will just automatically promote them to a manager. And oftentimes that's not the best way to handle it. You want to make sure that your top performer has people management skills before you promote them into a management level position. So don't penalize your staff or penalize that top performer by giving them a manager role if they're not quite ready for it. What you can do is provide managers with training that they need to make them transition from employee to manager. You should keep those managers up to date with company strategic initiatives, goals, and processes so that they can share the details with direct reports. It's great for executives to share information with employees, but oftentimes it is far better received when it comes from the employee's direct manager, because that's the person they have a strong relationship with. That's the person that they see on a regular basis. So allowing that manager to share those strategic initiatives goes a long ways. And then also allow your managers to make decisions without going to their boss or their boss's boss, right? Empower your managers to make critical decisions and to move forward with them as long as they are within companies' policies and boundaries. The next retention tactic is to provide training, mentoring, and coaching opportunities to your staff by allowing your employees to go through training, to be mentored and to be coached. It's demonstrating that you care about them and about their long-term standing with your organization and their skill development and the things that they're interested in. So take the time to train employees so that they know what's expected of them. Employees do enjoy working with and for individuals who share their knowledge and expertise. So if you have individuals who have more expertise, allow them to coach some of the junior level folks or the entry level folks so that it helps bring them up to speed. Encourage managers to regularly ensure that they understand the best approach to handling situations. It's important to tell your managers regularly, you got to meet with your employees. You got to meet with your employees and find out what's going on. Keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening so that if things are starting to derail, managers are the first ones to know and can actually get things back on track, as opposed to waiting until some catastrophic event happens later on down the road that it's a little more difficult to recover from. And then be on the lookout for employees who are struggling. Get them back on the right track as soon as you see that something is happening. By allowing your strong performers, those who have the expertise to mentor, it creates growth opportunities for them. It's kind of giving them some leadership skills without a leadership type title. They can do it a little more casually, but it's starting to help them develop their skills and increases their level of responsibility so that when those management roles become available, they're a little better positioned for it. You also want to make sure that by providing those types of opportunities, you're giving them the chance to interact with one another. And what that does is it creates camaraderie, and it is far more difficult for an employee to leave a group of people that they genuinely respect and trust and enjoy working with than it is a group that maybe they haven't been mentored or coached or had this type of an environment. Flexibility in the workplace is probably one of the biggest retention tactics right now. COVID taught a lot of us, mostly outside of healthcare or some of the other types of roles that you have to be in the office. But what it's taught us is that you can actually do your job without being in an office in many, many cases, certainly not in all cases, but in some cases. If the job is suited for remote work, you should allow employees to work remotely if that is what they would prefer to do. Now, that being said, it needs to be a situation where the employee successfully can work remotely. So they have access to technology and resources so that they can successfully work remotely and don't need to come into the office. It also needs to be a situation where you have expectations set up in a remote work agreement so that you and the employee are on the same page with regards to what is expected. Not all employees are well suited for remote work. Not all jobs are well suited for remote work. But if the person and if the job are able to work remotely, then you should allow it wherever possible. We hear a lot of employees saying, I'm being told I have to come back to work in the office after September, and I don't want to. I've been successfully working from home for a very long time. There's no issues with my performance. My last performance evaluation was strong. I don't know why they are telling me I have to come into the office. Unless there is a valid reason for it, and then you should allow employees to be a little bit more flexible. And this can actually create opportunities for you in the recruitment world too. If you're allowing individuals to work remotely, they can work from anywhere. You're not just tied to candidates that are within your geographic location if the position is well suited for remote work. So flexibility in the workplace is a really, really important retention initiative. You do want to make sure that with that flexibility, you're also creating a work environment that values work-life balance. Allow employees to use their paid time off or their sick leave. Don't force them to work and miss out on important family or personal events that might be going on. They need to have some balance. And there are certainly some industries right now where balance is kind of hitting an all-time low. So just be careful of that and make sure that you're putting work-life balance into your practice at your organization. And keep in mind that people move through various phases of life that change their priorities for a time, right? Like when I first started my career, I was all about work, all about work, all about work. Did not have any issues at all with coming in super early, staying late. Once I had children, I wanted to spend a little bit more time with kids and had obligations at home that I needed to take care of. So I'd come in early, but I wouldn't stay as late. So allow for some flexibility, realizing that as people go through different stages of their life, their work-life balance may change. And then identify opportunities that do create flexibility in the workplace, whether you allow part-time roles or people to job share or working modified schedules. Take a look at that and make sure that you're incorporating that as part of your retention initiatives. Wellness benefits are a thing that are relatively new, just within the last 10 years or so. And what wellness encompasses is mental, physical, spiritual, and financial health and well-being. So employers should be doing all they can to address each of those areas. The mental and physical areas can be handled through your standard benefit packages. So making sure that you have good health and wellness benefits, that you have good dental plans or vision plans, that you have an employee assistance program either built into your health benefit or into your life insurance benefit. The financial health, making sure that you have a 401k plan, or if you have tuition reimbursement or any of those types of things, you want to make sure that you're addressing each of these areas to assist employees with their overall health and well-being. And by doing that, it is going to improve their productivity and their commitment to the organization. So some examples of wellness activities, as I mentioned, those health benefits. Most benefit plans now offer some sort of employee assistance program. They can be a standalone program. They can be part of your medical benefit. They can be part of your life benefit. If you're unsure if you have an employee assistance program, contact your benefit broker to find out, because those EAPs were used so much more throughout COVID than we had seen in previous years. And it's something that if you have one, you want to make sure that you're marketing it to your employees. Also utilizing teledoc or virtual type programs. So finding out from your healthcare provider if they offer teledoc or virtual, and if they don't, then as you're going into contract negotiations for next year's benefits, looking to see if you can find one that does include that component. You want to make sure that you're utilizing wellness mobile apps. and encourage employees to download and use those apps to stay up to date with their benefits. It helps them be more aware of what benefits are available to them and utilize those benefits. You're paying for the benefits, so you may as well have them use them. Offer healthy snack and meal options for employees to enjoy. Sure, everybody likes donut day, but why not have something a little bit healthier? Why not do a salad lunch, or at least offer salad when you're bringing in pizza? Offer some of those healthier choices. And then provide access to a student loan financial service company to help employees figure out a plan for paying off student loan debt. That is a tremendous stress on some of our folks who are in our workforce right now. And just giving them access to student financial service companies so that that company can help them figure out their game plan without you having to pay for anything can oftentimes be very, very beneficial for an employee. And then create a work environment that employees want to be part of, right? Have social activities, recognize birthdays and anniversaries, work anniversaries, recognize successes when somebody passes a certification, promotions, those types of things. Like, be involved with your employees, get their approval before celebrating a birthday. I know that every month in August, my birthday's in August, I get an email from our office administrator that says, hey, you have an August birthday. Are you okay if we put out there what day your birthday is as part of our August birthday celebration? And every single year I say, yep. We have a once a month birthday celebration for all of the birthdays that occur that month. It's just a fun way to get people together and shows that you genuinely care about them. Make sure that you are doing some sort of community service activities. Employees love to give back to their communities. Find out what your employees are passionate about, and put together some different types of activities that you can do to support those types of community initiatives. And I realize we're getting short on time. So retention starts with recruitment and it ends with the work environment that you create. So you can tie in all of the components of retention along with your recruitment and create a work environment that employees want to be part of. So recruit the best talent, spend time getting them on board, pay them fairly, empower your managers, provide training, mentoring, and coaching, allow flexibility, and include wellness in your day-to-day activities. And with unemployment at 5.8% and a labor pool that prefers collecting unemployment to working, you really do need to focus on recruiting and retaining your talent. And with that, I apologize for going over, but if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer questions.
We do have one here, and it says, now that we're back in the office, management has had mixed feelings on working remote. How do you kind of convince management that it's important?
So that's difficult because there are a lot of, like I said, there are some positions where they have to be in the office, right? Or in the building. You have a physical location, and in order for them to do their job, they physically have to be there. If it's receiving visitors or customers or patients or things like that, you have to have somebody there at the desk to receive them in or to provide them with the care or the service. But there are many positions that don't require for someone to be in the office building. And I would say, I would look back at, maybe talk with senior leadership about, let's identify the positions that must be here. And then let's take a look and see which positions could work remotely. And if there's a concern about a specific individual and their performance, you deal with that specific individual and that performance. And it could be that maybe they don't want to deal with that. I mean, that's a conflict resolution, and sometimes people just don't like dealing with the performance issue. But that is what you should focus on: is it just one person or a couple of people, and then we are enforcing this rule that everybody has to come back because of those individuals, because we don't want to deal with their performance issues. Looking at performance and how people have done, maybe showing leadership that we've been successful. We actually were more efficient in these areas by working from home, We created some efficiencies with processes. We streamlined all of these different things, and maybe pointing out all of the things that happened because we were working remotely, and showing those successes could go a long way with helping them understand that it's not a one size fits all. And if they do need to understand, if they choose to force people to come back to work, you will have some segment of the population that will get a doctor's note that says that they need to work remotely as a reasonable accommodation, and you'll have to accommodate that if the job is one that can be done remotely. But if they don't allow employees to work remotely when they've been doing so successfully, the employee will find another employer. They will, if they truly want to work from home, they'll find someone else who will let them work from home.
All right, so this one, it's a little long, but basically it comes down to what type of tools or recommendations do you have to weed out some of the resumes that come in that maybe those candidates just aren't so serious about the position?
Right, and you're going to see a lot of those because in order to, a lot of folks truly do want to work. I don't want to get the message across that everybody on unemployment doesn't want to work. There are a lot of people who truly want to work, and they are looking for jobs, and they might be applying for jobs that are way out of their skill set. There are other people who are doing it just to fulfill the obligation of collecting their unemployment. They have to prove that they have applied for positions. If you have a high volume of resumes coming in, you may want to, for a time being, assign someone who normally wouldn't be reviewing resumes. Maybe there's an administrative person or a person on your HR team who can literally just go through resumes, or you hire a temp to do it. You have the key things that you're looking for, and if you don't see those key things in the resume, then they're not qualified, and you can just put them in the rejected pile and email them or whatever and let them know, thanks for applying, but we've decided not to pursue you. But know what the core fundamental things are that they have to have, like if there's a certain level of education, or if you see somebody's just been job hopping, and that doesn't suit your skill set or what you're looking for, then you can weed them out. Or if they just don't have the skills to do the job, like you're looking for somebody who is a technician and all you're seeing is somebody who has food service and no education in becoming a technician, nothing indicated in their resume that they have any technician type skills, you can weed through those pretty quickly. If it's a higher level position, you probably aren't getting as many resumes for higher level positions. So I'm assuming that this is probably more for entry level. And unfortunately, you just have to find somebody to either help you get through them, and you can train somebody on what to look for in the resume. Like you can just point out the key factors to look for and have them look for those things and weed everybody else out.
Perfect. Well, that is all the questions that are there. So thank you all so much. Lori, did you have any final thoughts?
So there was one comment about the mention of diversity recruiting. In my much longer presentation, I do actually talk about diversity and utilizing a variety of different diverse sites to post your position so that you can put it out there to a more diverse group of individuals who can apply. I definitely promote diversity in recruitment. It comes in a variety of different forms: gender, age, disability, ethnic background, and there are a lot of different areas where you can post positions so that you do expand your applicant pool. And that's actually one of the biggest things that you can do. If you want to get great candidates, you need to post your positions in a variety of different places to get a diverse group of people to apply. If you're constantly only posting your position in one spot, you're going to get the same kind of people applying for it, and that doesn't make a company great. What makes a company great is having people from different types of backgrounds, with different thoughts, different ideas, to bring fresh new perspectives on moving the organization forward. So I do apologize that I didn't have that slide in there, but it is in my much longer recruitment only focused presentation.